The bicycle zombie that Rick Grimes finds at the beginning of The Walking Dead. How did it get there? What is the story of this woman before she became a zombie? And also some reference to the research for the cure that the CDC was doing at the beginning of the outbreak. A military helicopter telling the population where to go. Many very interesting things in the secret episode of The Walking Dead, which I'm going to explain everything here. So if you want to know, stay here and let's go. Hello everyone who watching this beautiful channel. My name is João Victor and I'm back to talk about The Walking Dead universe again. But now let's explain about one of the most important zombies of this show. Not about the spin-offs, but about the main show. Basically the first season and the first episode of the show. This is a very important story that connects to Rick, and there's a separate episode telling everything about her. But first, don't forget to check the like in this video, it helps me a lot with the promotion. Also, I'd like to thank you for the feedback in all my videos explaining about this universe. I will keep doing more and more, and if you like, don't forget to subscribe here. And as I used to say in all my videos, thank you for your patience with my English. I'm trying to improve it. And there we go, here's the thing. Torn Apart. This is the name of another web episode that we're going to talk about here. A very important web episode that gave us a lot of clues about the beginning of the outbreak, and some clues that connects to Rick Grimes' story. Many people didn't watch this episode or didn't notice many details inside it. Basically, if you don't know, the web episodes are the ones only available online, talking about some different stories related to The Walking Dead. I have a video here talking about another one that connects to Rick Grimes. The name is The Oath, and there's many others. If you like some videos, just write in the comments. But let's talk about the bicycle zombie. Let's talk about her when she was a human, because her name is Hannah. This web episode talks about her story. She's a mother of two who suddenly wake up in a car after having an accident. In the moment the outbreak is beginning, she looks at the back seats, doesn't find any of her children. She has two children, and then she gets out of the car desperately after them. Yeah, she sees some houses half abandoned without many people on the street, and she's already sees a bicycle abandoned there. This is like some reference about what will happen to her after this story. Even the camera focuses well on that. But let's keep going with the story. She goes through the city, disoriented, where she finds only mess and destruction because the outbreak has begun, including some zombies. Many people died, which is the first time apparently she has this contact. And she gets desperate as a zombie runs after her. So she runs away towards her ex-husband's house. There she tries to open the door, she can't, but suddenly she's surprised by her ex-husband Andrew, who opens the door and shots that zombie. Precisely with this, we have the revelation that the children are with him. They ended up there, and there begins some very interesting reference in the story about what is happening in the world. First, with Andrew himself taking the initiative to take care of Hannah's injuries. He's still there to be able to treat and begins to update her on things that are happening in the world. He says that it's happening everywhere, that it's all screwed up, it's all over, but that's when he makes an extra revelation. He says that Mike Palmer, who we will meet later in the story, revealed that it is terrorism, that in fact zombies are attacking the world. It was a way for terrorists to attack these people there, that there is no way for anyone to stop. And so the interesting thing is that it doesn't confirm that they were terrorists. It can be real, but it also can be some conspiracy theory. By this episode you can create this theory too. It's up to you. If we take what we know so far from this universe, what we know from Daryl's spin-off, what we know from The Walking Dead World Beyond, you know that some scientists there at France, they produced the zombie virus in some laboratory and everything else. To this day we know that it was probably some mistake, something too ambitious. I still can't say that it could be someone who did it all of malice, but then we continue with the episode bringing flashbacks to explain previous things to connect with the current story. Hours before there we have the explanation about Judy, this woman who's precisely Andrew's current wife, that it shows what happened to her. She goes by, hears the radio noises, there's a voice there, even in the car talking about some emergency transmission coming from Washington, which shows a lot how the government acted in the beginning. Also how the news channels act, and also there's more that will be shown. But before that we have something very crazy that happens to Judy, which is perhaps one of the most sinister deaths in the Walking Dead universe. There Judy finds a woman in the middle of the street who is down, unconscious, and tries to help the woman, thinking that she is alive, but when she directs to the mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, the woman comes back to life like a zombie and directly in Judy's mouth. It's very crazy to watch. She bites her by her mouth. The creativity of Greg Nicotero, who's the one of those responsible for these episodes, was extraordinary. I think he didn't even use this concept later in any of the series, any of the spin-offs. But then we continue with some scenes from the house, which shows what Andrew was doing in the meantime. Like before Hannah arrived, while his wife had been killed outside, he didn't know. He was desperate, coming from some very stressful situation. And there's another interesting thing here, some other reference about this universe. While he's washing his hands, we can hear a little of the TV. Exactly in the voice of the journalist, it is revealed that the government will make a statement, but it's also revealed there by the newspaper that the safest place to stay is at home. But then the situation gets more sinister. Andrew, there in the middle of it all, hears a noises in the house. He hears that someone has broken into his house. Scared, he arrives at the door, sees that it's open, there's a trail of blood on the floor, and he warns that he's armed, and then he's suddenly surprised by his own wife, who is already zombified, who makes him scared and already turns shooting, knocking his wife there, but not shooting in the head. But if you didn't notice, there in that scene we have some very interesting point about the variant zombies from the beginning, which we had seen even in the main show. Here's the second zombie case of The Walking Dead that we see that the zombie returned to his home. There's some lapse of consciousness that some variants there in Atlanta had at the beginning, so they could remember something. In the main show we have Morgan's wife. She's another zombie who did that too. But then continuing with the story, we have Andrew taking action. He shot her, but it's not in the head. He uses the rug to roll her up. And at this moment we move to another scene when Andrew is at another place and he is surprised by his neighbor. Mike himself appears armed with his own shotgun. That's when we come up with other revelations. Mike himself already reveals that he was beaten, and when Andrew tells him that he has to go to the hospital, here comes some other revelation. It even ties with the end of the first season of The Walking Dead about the cure. At that moment, Mike asks Andrew if he didn't know. Didn't you know? The CDC is working on. And then he confirms what Andrew had told Hannah at the beginning, that it is terrorists who caused this, that they found a way to reach people. At this moment, we have a very sad revelation. Mike reveals that this day is his birthday. They were, you know, singing happy birthday, that his wife, named Maggie, made him a cake. It's not the same Maggie from the main show, it's like a reference. But in the end, he ended up killing her. It's because she attacked him. She turned into a zombie. That's when we hear the noises up there. And it is, you know, implied, the revelation that his children, who were also celebrating his birthday, are up there at his house as a zombies right now. The revelation that this guy lost everything, he has nothing left, including being beaten. And it leads us to something sinister. Mike reveals to Andrew the amount of bullets he has and asks so that Andrew kills him. Even eliminate the children upstairs. But we see that it's not what Andrew did. And the question is why? This is because when we go back from all these flashbacks to the present, the moment that Hannah had arrived with the children, we have Hannah talking to Andrew there about how things are. Meanwhile, the children are in a room of this house. And here we have the connection of Judy's zombie, who, as I said in the beginning of the story, he shot her, but it wasn't in the head. He just wrapped her in a rug. Well, in the scene, she reanimates there, she comes back, gets up, and goes on to attack the children, who hide under the table first, then hide in a closet. And here we have another variant reference. When she realizes that they are inside, the zombie herself puts her hand between the closet entrance and pulls it. Yeah, she opens the door like a human being exactly in front of them. That's when Hannah appears by surprise with an axe, knocking her down, telling her to get away from her family, saving the children. But then we go down the path of the last phase of this episode. At that moment, after some conversation, they conclude that they can't stay there. So they decide to go to Atlanta because it's well suggested that they are in King County, the same city as Rick, and that's when they start this mission. But for that, they need to start the car of the neighbor in front. And Andrew knows where the keys are, which is there in Mike's body. So he goes back to the basement of the guy's house, but that's where when he finds the keys in the dark, we have an extremely terrifying scene. Remember the children, the Mike's children he didn't kill? Well, they appear there with little birthday hats, a very sinister scene of terror just like that, and we only hear the noises of Andrew dying. And I have to say, it is perhaps one of the best made web episodes with a very well written and directed horror story. But then we go to the conclusion with some interesting things, some helicopter that no, it's not from the CRM at that time, it is some helicopter from the military, just like what Rick saw in Atlanta at the beginning. In this episode, this helicopter is giving warning to the population that for whoever is listening to go to the safe area north of the park, that people who get there will have a transport to go to Atlanta. Yes, the safe place goal was Atlanta. Look at how crazy the army was at the beginning of the story and messy. They are sending people to Atlanta as a safe place, and then they bombed Atlanta. In the Operation Cobalt, we see some scenes. They are bombing Atlanta in the second season of The Walking Dead. Some flashbacks from Shane and Laurie. They mess it up with everything. But Hannah herself is there with her children now, and the only knowledge of something that can work is this. She hears what the helicopter says and decides to follow the path with the children themselves. That's when the disaster strikes. Running there, they attract several zombies, which on the street only have zombies. The zombies are advancing, surrounding them, but that's when Hannah spots a car. There she tries to get in so she can start the car to see if it works, but she's surprised by a zombie that was in the car, who bites her arm, and now Hannah will die. So she decides to reach out the children, hands them a gun, and tells them to run for life, to try to get the safe area. So we have a very sad ending. The kids go and she stays there, surrendering to the zombie herd, and she's being totally torn apart. The name of the episode. Then we have the focus of how her body went until she became that zombie. We see her here already dead, destroyed, and then it updates there probably a few weeks later, which is the time that Rick woke up and left the hospital. She is already there on the grass of the park, crawling with a broken body, just like Rick found her. Yes, this is Hannah's story. And there's another interesting thing that a few people comment, is that Hannah's children stayed alive. The story ends without anyone ever having told about what happened to them. I think they died along the way by a lot of zombies, a lot of variant zombies that we know. There was a lot of variant zombies in Atlanta and King County in the beginning of the apocalypse. Or you can say they arrived at this park and found nothing. They ended up dying there alone. I don't think they will show what happened to them in the future. It will be an amazing story to tell in Tales episode, in some another web episode, but I don't think the production is interested, because at the moment Hannah is saying goodbye to them. The helicopter is shown leaving. And then there's another option that I had to say, in my opinion. They may have even arrived at the safe zone in Atlanta, but as I said before, they bombed Atlanta. Yeah, this is another story from The Walking Dead that people don't use to talk about it in the internet in detail. It is a great web episode, one of the best. By this episode we can understand some reference about the cures, some studying that the CDC was doing. It is very cool to always hear about it. I hope they do more of this past, explaining more, even if are random characters that connect with the things we've seen, that connects with everything. The beginning of this outbreak, explaining how it started. Write in the comments what you think about it, what kind of explanation you want to know about The Walking Dead, what kind of the web episode you want me to talk about next. Leave the like here, it helps me a lot with the promotion. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything, any content about The Walking Dead universe. I will keep telling several stories that many people didn't know here. Thank you for watching, I'll be back soon, and bye.